Good evening, good evening, man. I'm just excited again. Welcome you back to the Conversation 9-8, and we back on for another episode. And I look forward to tonight's episode. Um, you know, hey, got my football in. Happy, excited about that. But I'm gonna go ahead on and get started with this the show for tonight. Again, man, thank you guys so much. It's really truly a blessing. And I say that because we've been going strong, been going very strong for a long time. We're on episode 160, so we've been going strong with that. And I just want to continue to thank everybody for the continued support. For rocking with me. It means a lot. And whole goal is just to really just have a platform to where we're talking about good stuff and relevant stuff. And I think things that I feel that should be relevant to uh, what we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and coming to it from a realistic, a logical, but also a spiritual background, and just have those conversations that not many people are having that I see out there. So thank you again. And this is an interactive uh, podcast. So feel free to jump in. Let me know your comments if you got anything to say. Look forward to it. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Sharing this with a few people, and we're gonna get right on into it. Again, thank you guys so much, and I look forward to tonight show. And tonight we're gonna jump right on into it. Ain't no need to play around with it. But um, tonight episode, we're going to talk about there's power found in embracing the vulnerabilities when letting something go. And there's power found in that. And the reason why I say there's power found in that is because I was talking to a friend this week. Carl had a phone conversation, and it sparked this me thinking about just talking about this. And I know it's power, because a lot of times we end up holding on to stuff way longer than what we should. And there's a fear when we're dealing with things and when we're going through things, there's a fear of letting go. And sometimes we have to let go. But there's power found in embracing that vulnerability. You will be vulnerable. There will be a space or a place where you will feel vulnerable, especially right before letting go. And there's power found in that because I know it can feel uncomfortable because of the fear of the unknown. But if we embrace that vulnerability, right, we can find peace. We can make peace with ourselves a lot better when we let go. I promise we'll make peace a lot better when we let go. Because that's just what it is. I mean, we'll find peace a lot better when we let go, when we choose to let go. But one of the things about it is too many times what we do is we hold on to stuff. Many times in our life, we hold on to way too much stuff than what we should hold on to. And the reason why we hold on to it is because we fear what it's going to be not to have that, whatever that is in our lives. Because it may be what we've got become accustomed to, maybe what we've got comfortable with, right? And that's why I said there's power and found in embracing that vulnerability. We have to embrace that vulnerability because many of us we're holding on to stuff way too long than what we should have because we too afraid of what it's going to be like without it. But we're not even paying attention to what it's like with it already in our lives. And that can be relationships with people, that can be holding on to a job, that can be whatever. And so many times, right, we just stay stuck and imprisoned in that moment because we are so afraid to embrace that vulnerability. And the reality is, a lot of our blessings, a lot of our breakthroughs are found in our ability to embrace that vulnerability and let go. It's found in that. It is found in that. What's going on, Unc? How you doing? How you doing? Thank you. I appreciate you. Love you. But yeah, we like really embrace it, really getting into that space to where we can embrace. And I know I talk about this, and I want to speak on this tonight. Really speak on it because I feel like it is so important. But so many of us have spent so much time holding on to stuff way longer than the expiration date than what it's supposed to be, way longer than the time that we're supposed to have it in our lives. And that's why we find so many people, we keep seasonal people in our lives, try to fit seasonal people or seasonal situations into our lives as if it's a lifetime thing. And the reality is it's only supposed to have been seasonal. But because we are afraid to embrace the vulnerability in the transitions, we hold on to those things, and then we start to be frustrated because those things that we're holding on start to have conflict in our lives, and we trying to make peace and we trying to work this thing out, but we're supposed to let it go. But we were afraid to let it go because we're afraid of what it's going to be like, or we're afraid of the unknown of what it's not going to be like if that person is not in your life anymore, if you don't have that job, if you don't, that situation, this certain situation. No, it's time to let that thing go. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. And the reason why, one of the reasons why I bring it up is because many of us struggle with understanding the difference between letting go and releasing, right? And me and my mom was having a conversation, but there's a significant difference between me letting go or holding on and releasing, right? Some things we just have to release. And that's why I say in that vulnerability, don't worry about what it is. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to have all of the questions and all of those answers. Sometimes we just got to release. Sometimes we just got to let certain people go. Sometimes we got to cut our losses. We just got to say, you know what, boom, I chalk that up. I take an L on that, but I'm moving forward. I take an L on it materially. I take an L on it emotionally, but I'm gaining my freedom, or I'm getting my release from it, and I'm not subjecting myself to it because I know even while holding on to it, it's not doing me any good. So that's why I said we got to stop being scared about wondering what ifs and just say, you know, hey, it's time to let go. It is time to let go. It's time to let go. What's going on, Nick? How you doing? How you doing? Hey, congrats, man. Congrats on your selection. I told you a while back. I told you, congrats. But yeah, I mean, when we sit down, right, and this is one of the reasons why it's hard for a lot of us. But it's hard for a lot of us to let go, is because we put too much value, and we're using what we're holding on to. We're expecting that to give us something that it may not even have the capability of giving us, right? So we're trying to force something out of someone or something, right? We're holding on to that relationship, and the reality is, the whole time you've been in it hasn't been one that's been giving to you. You've been the one pouring into it, and it hasn't been reciprocating that back to you. You're holding on to that job. You're holding on to that friendship. You're holding on to those different type of organizations. You're holding on to all of these things that you know that, hey, the expiration time has been let go. You're supposed to been let that go. But you've been holding on, hoping for the best, while at the same time frustrated because of the struggles and the frustration, right? And the thing that's draining you is the very same thing that you're holding on to. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Listen, I'm telling you, just let that thing go. Let it go. Like they said on the movie Frozen, let it go. But you got to let it go. And that's not a bad thing, you know. And I think one of the things that I think that leads to it is many of us fear letting go because we fear that we're going to lose all of the time, energy, effort, money, resources that we've invested into something, right? And the reality is, sometimes, right, there are going to be times where you just got to let it go. Your blessing is not tied to that. Like, you have to take up, like I like when the Bible said, take up your bed and walk. You got to take that bed up. Sometimes you just got to say, you know what? I'm going to take that L. I'm going to take that loss, right? I'm going to take that loss. I'm not trying to protect it. We stay to try to protect stuff that God has been telling us to let go and release. And we wonder why we never have peace with it. We wonder why we never have a sense of comfort with that, right? Because sometimes your blessing is found in when you release. You have to release. You have to let go. You have to surrender. And in that surrendering, you're not losing. In that surrendering, what you're really doing is activating the blessing that God has for you, but you got to let it go. You have to make a conscious decision to say, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and let that thing go. Yeah, I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it go. But guess what? I'm gonna trust, because this is the funny thing is, even if you choose to hold on to something or you choose to let it go, right? The difference between choosing to hold on something is when you choose to hold on something that you know deep down inside, or you have an inkling that you should be letting go, right? When you choose to hold on to it, that's you trying to control the outcome. And we can pray about it, we can do all of these things, right? But there can be times where we can believe for something, but just because I believe for something and I desire for something to happen that I want, that doesn't mean that that's what's best interest for me, right? So we got to learn to say, hey, I'm gonna trust. I got to learn to put my trust, and I got to learn to put my faith and embrace. Hey, you know what? I don't know what the outcome gonna be, but I'm not gonna. It's time for me to let this go. It's time for me to speak up. It's time for me to wipe my hands, right? And wipe my hands doesn't mean that I got to be malice or nasty towards anybody else. Wipe my hands is that saying I'm releasing it and letting it go. I'm releasing it and I'm letting it go, right? And that's something that is something that is powerful, and something that I feel that in this place or in this space, uh, that's where we find power at, right? We find power in just letting it go. We have uh, many of us are draining our own self, holding on to stuff that we know that we should have let go a long time ago, and we're holding on to it, hoping for the best. But the hoping for the best is really us trying to convince ourselves to believe a lie or not accept what we all know to be true. Many times God speaks to us and tell us to let certain people go, and we just hold on to it, and we just, oh, I'm believing, I'm believing. No, you can believe all day, but God already spoke. God already spoke. And you see all of the signs. You see things ain't lining up. You see that person that you probably want in your life, because sometimes we hold on to stuff that we want but ain't good for us, and that's the big problem. So we're trying to force it to work for us because that's something that we want, but that ain't what's good for us in the long term. And we'll find ourselves frustrated, broke, busted, and disgusted, trying to force and make all of these things happen that ain't even meant to happen in the first place. And we just got to let that thing go. I mean, stop sitting there trying to force stuff. You know, stop trying to force it. And that's that. I know that sounds kind of sad, but that's just what a reality is. That right there is what the reality is. And one of the reality is sometimes we can allow our faith to get in the way, our own faith to get in the way. What I mean by faith is our own desires or what we want, the outcome that we want, to get into the way of us letting things go. And we hold on to stuff and we hold on to dead things that God had already told us that's dead, but we just, oh, I'm just gonna believe. I'm gonna believe. No, let that thing go. And I'm not saying this in a bad place. And sometimes, sometimes you have to let things go. Some things are dead. You may not can connect to it again. Some things you probably had to let go at that moment and probably reconnect to later. Because a lot of times letting go, now you have to you got to get to a space to where you can deal with you, and it's not always about the other person. Sometimes letting go is giving you the time for you to deal with yourself, because dealing with yourself is the number one thing you can do before you can heal, regardless of how you put it. Dealing with yourself, and this right here is good. Thank you, God. Thank you. uh we simply have to get to a place to where we sometimes have to release ourselves from people, places, and things, so that we can have time to isolate and be in isolation, so that we can really deal with the reality of who we are, so that we can deal with ourselves, we can deal with our ways, we can heal, we can start to identify those things. Because sometimes with that release, right, and letting go, sometimes we hold on to other people, places, and things, and subconsciously we try to force them to be our healing mechanism, and that the reality is they ain't got nothing to do with your healing. We can't force our healing on somebody else. They can choose to participate, but now we try to hold on and drag them along, and we strain those relationships. And sometimes God said, hey, let go. And it's okay. It's okay. You're not alone when you're taking time to deal with you. You're not alone when you're taking time to deal with you. And I know that's what I'm talking about. That's where power is found, in embracing that vulnerability, right? Because so many of us, we get scared and we don't want to deal with it. My mama said, wow, now that's power. Holding on to what hurting you so you can heal. Yep. And this thing too, man, like and just in so many different ways, so many different um points in our lives, we find ourselves have to deal with ourselves. And I talk about it, man, but this is something that's so prevalent. It's so prevalent, but we don't talk about it. This is a lot of this stuff that I think about. I feel like we suffer in silence on, and we don't talk about it a lot, and we just try to press through. But no, some things it's okay to let go. Man, look, I'm telling you, man, like, and we call this stuff, a lot of people like to throw the term around toxic, but no, I don't do that. But I would say this, man, you better start letting go of people. You better start letting go of people who no matter how hard you try, right, it don't ever seem to work right. It don't ever seem to mesh, right? And that can be a sign that you have to let those people go and stop trying to hold on to folks to control them. And that's the problem that a lot of us have. We try to hold on to people to control them. We can't control nobody. You can't force nobody, right? And you got to let those people go. And a lot of times you talking about letting people go, that letting people go force you to have to deal with the reality of you. And then once you let people go, sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you need that space. You need that isolation. You need that space. And that don't mean that you'll never reconnect, but sometimes you need to separate. Sometimes we got to separate in order to see, because our 2020 vision is clouded when we are so focused on somebody else instead of getting in the right space so we can deal with ourselves. Yeah, yeah. My mom said it. She said, "Stop holding on to what's hurting you so you can heal." Um, and this can be with anything. This can be with anything. Um, and I'm gonna speak on this one. And I'm gonna speak on this one, and I hope this is helpful to somebody. But uh, sometimes we got to learn to let go of those who've gone before us. They may be our loved ones, and we may have so many undealt with things or things that may not have happened while they were here. But I want you to understand that, you know, you are putting yourself in, you're driving yourself in the turmoil because you're trying to live through your mind and make things right that wasn't ain't your responsibility. Right? You have to let it go. Hey, you have to let it go. Rest on that. Learn to forgive yourself. If you feel like you didn't do what you needed to do at that moment, hey, start deal with that. Isolate yourself. Not now, I didn't say leave yourself alone, but start dealing with yourself so that you can start to heal from that. Because it's so many of us are carrying dead weight with us that is we supposed to release a long time ago. Nick said, I think that's what I've been trying to do. I've been staying with hope that people will change. I've lost myself completely trying to make others around me happy. I put myself on the back burner for years to make others happy around me happy. And it's still not enough. Now that I've set boundaries, people are upset. So, and I want to speak on that. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for the transparency, right? Thanks for sharing and thanks for the transparency. But one of the things we got to be careful, with trying to heal ourselves through giving to other people. And that's where a space that many of us find ourselves in, that we try to heal ourselves by giving to other people. We subconsciously we try to give to other people to consider other people in the way that we want others to consider us, right? But without even speaking it, or many times we speak it and they don't give it back, and we become frustrated because we was like, hey, I consider you, I give to you, I pour into you. Why you don't do that for me? But the reality is the motive, subconsciously, the motive behind what we're doing is to really be self-serving, and hopefully they see us so that they can pour in us. That's why it's so important that we get to a place to where we can get in isolation so that we can set those boundaries, so that we can identify what are our triggers and what's driving us, so that we can start to be healed and we can be made whole. And that is the God honest truth. That's the God honest truth. And because you, and this is a good thing, right? One of the things we got to realize is, right, you would never heal yourself by not dealing with yourself and try to heal yourself through your actions to other people. Like, there are some things that we're going to get through service. Yes, there's certain things that I get through serving others, right? But I can't heal myself through trying to heal myself through giving to other people what I feel like I need from somebody else. But I never deal with my voice. I never deal with the thing that's going on with me. Right? I have to deal with me. I have to deal with myself. I have to realize, hey, what are my triggers? Hey, why am I this way? And there's nothing wrong with you being the way that you are. The problem come in is when we try to use our actions to heal ourselves, and because we are afraid to address and deal with ourselves. And we got to deal with ourselves. We just have to deal with ourselves. Yeah, my mom said, right, we can't heal ourselves through others. No. That's a personal thing. And it is so important, Nick. It's so important. It is this is a good one. It is so important to set boundaries when you start to let go, when you start to let certain people go, when you start to let certain things go. You have to set boundaries to protect yourself from yourself. You have to set boundaries to protect yourself from others, right? And it is so important to set those boundaries because those boundaries is the space where you can heal. Those boundaries allow you, and I didn't say to set imprison yourself. I say set boundaries, right? And you set boundaries so that you can start to look at yourself in the mirror. You can start to examine yourself. You can start to deal with your emotions and deal with the whys and deal with the root cause of a lot of stuff, right? But it's so important to set those boundaries. And you have to set those boundaries so other people won't come in and continue to benefit from you giving out of your pain. Because people will continue to benefit from you giving out of your pain when you refuse to acknowledge that you even hurt. You refuse to acknowledge that you even hurt. So that's something that it is. And man, I'm so glad that you guys tuned in with me tonight. I appreciate everybody with the comments and the dialogue. Didn't want to be before you guys long, but again, man, go check out my social media platforms that we have up here at the Conversation 98 on YouTube, the Conversation 98 on Instagram, at 98 Conversation on X, Twitter, the Conversation 98 on here. Make sure you go and like that page here. Let's get my followers up. And at the Conversation _98 on TikTok. If this was helpful for you, share this with somebody, man. Let them know that try to do this on every week on Saturdays. I know the daytime was a little bit different, but I appreciate everybody tuning in. And my mom said, my, set boundaries to protect you from you and from others. Yes, we do. And that's something I'm speaking from. And I'm not speaking from a place where like I got everything. No, I'm speaking from a place where, that's something that I'm learning and living myself, and I try to be as transparent as possible, but that's something that I definitely had to get to a space to realize, about me. And it's okay. It's okay. Like, honestly, really getting to that, like, it's power. When you embrace the thing about this, man, and thank you, God. The thing about this is, when you embrace your vulnerabilities, embracing your vulnerabilities will start to become your superpower. Because when you embrace your vulnerability, it makes you deal with your vulnerabilities. And when you start dealing with your vulnerabilities, that takes the power that other people can have over you, because it eliminates the fear of other people exposing you or knowing about it. You own it. And now by you owning it, right, you control your narrative. You control what's going on. And the other people, external sources, cannot dictate to you based off your vulnerability, because now it's not a liability. It becomes an asset because you take ownership of it. And when you don't take ownership of your vulnerabilities, you allow other people to have ownership of it. And now it's a liability. But when you take ownership of it, it's no longer a liability. It becomes an asset because you put your stamp of approval on it. You take ownership on it, and nobody can use anything against you with it because that's 100% you, and you took power over yourself. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. You guys have a great and wonderful evening, and look forward to seeing you guys on another episode, God's willing. Holler at you guys.